It's interesting. There was this attack in Australia a few days ago at Bondi Beach, and there were 5 security guards there who were unarmed. The police who attended at first, I think 3 out of 4 of them were women, and they did not rush towards the gunmen. They ducked and covered, and I'm not saying they didn't do anything, but that gunman went on for 20 minutes. The police station was 3 minutes away. It reminds me also of the Secret Service agent when Trump was shot. The female Secret Service agent got flustered, didn't know what to do. And I'm not saying that women can't serve in certain roles, but in an absolute crisis, in a panic, where you literally have to run towards bullets, climb up the Twin Towers when they're under attack, those things are masculine. And I don't know, I don't know exactly what a boss girl is. There's this iconic picture of
what it is.
The Huffington Post editorial board sitting around a table. It's almost all women and it's almost all white. And they said this is the apex. They were so proud of what they call diversity, single liberal white women. I don't know. I think things have gone too far. And again, just like men have certain instincts, if you have a woman who cannot express her maternal instincts naturally, like Angela Merkel, who didn't have any kids, well, she'll bring in 5 million Syrians. Those are her children. She'll project her maternal instincts on foreign military-age migrant men. That's how she'll scratch that itch. I really think that's what that is.
Look, women can't write, all right? My favorite writers are women. Ann Coulter, Michelle Malkin, Laura Hellebrand, the chick who wrote Unbroken. That doesn't mean that women can write. You could say your favorite basketball players are Chinese guys, but Chinese people tend not to be good at basketball. So the two are not mutually exclusive. I think we have to come to terms with the possibility that certain groups are better at certain things. Tall black guys are good in the NBA. We do not need diversity in the NBA or it will hurt basketball.
Right.
And directing movies is a very tough job. You've got to remember all the shots you need. You have to be an a-hole and be like, you can't act, you're fired. You're salvageable. We'll do this 50 more takes. It's a very masculine thing, but people just assume we need more female directors. We need more women in action movies. No, we don't. And even writing, this is a pretty controversial opinion, but even writing, you've got beginning, a middle, and an end. You've got opening paragraphs to book them in. You have to research the crap out of it and make sure you're right. And then the conclusion has to be this sort of wise summary of everything you've been talking about. It's very math oriented. It's very STEM. And women aren't good at that. And that's why when you look at most female written articles, they do research. And it's like living as a single mom on her 3rd kid and trying to figure out my future in dating. Like it's always me talking about myself. They're just not there. So I'm hoping that we can re-embrace meritocracy and accept, sorry, men are better in at least the violent part of the military. Men are better generally at writing, directing. Black guys are better at basketball and most sports. Like, let's just ignore the fact that there's too much of one group in a thing and embrace the fruits of their labor.
Now, I started off by talking about your tenure at Rebel News, which started 10 years ago. We turned 10 years old this year. The world was so very different. Free speech was a thing. They didn't censor you on YouTube in 2015, 2016. It was only really when Trump won, in part because of social media, that the crackdown began in January, February of 2017. So you were with us during the golden years of commentary, and your videos would often get 1 million views. That happens very rarely to us these days. And I don't think it's because we've changed. I think it's because we still remain under some throttling. That said, I think the online movement has metastasized, if I'm saying that word right. I think, and you know these folks better than me because I know you've done some shows with them. Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, even some folks are adjacent to InfoWars. I think they've gone absolutely crazy. I think they've gone nuts. I mean, you can be politically incorrect. You and I have just spent the last 20 minutes being sexist and a little bit racist and ableist and transphobic, whatever. But I see people LARPing, live action role playing, as actual Nazis. Nick Fuentes says Hitler was cool. What the hell is going on with them?
I think Nick is becoming the more moderate of the group you mentioned, but I'll defend Nick in this sense. You, as a young man, you get you're white, you're evil, Hitler, 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 and so you say, "Yeah, I love Hitler. I think he's cool." It's like what I was saying earlier with racism. You're a racist, and you go, "Yeah, I am a racist. I love it." And I don't think these kids really, admire Hitler, especially the millions of people he killed. I think it's a reaction to the chastising of political correctness. And even when they, like this guy, he calls himself woman propaganda. He goes, "Yeah, I'm a racist. I'm a proud racist. People need to be more racist." And then I see that his business partner is what's his name? Myron Gaines, a Sudanese guy from his parents are African. So I think a lot of this is tongue in cheek, but it's sort of like cocaine. Like these people are doing a bump of anti-Semitism and they're becoming insane cokeheads. And Nick, to his credit, he's dialing it back and going, "Wait, guys, slow down. Israel did not murder Charlie Kirk. Like, let's follow Occam's razor." But the rest of them have surpassed Nick. And now it's Jews did Bondi Beach. Jews, like there was just some Orthodox Jews strangled in the subway right by my studio. That was Jews setting up random black dudes who their clothes look very authentic. And they're training these Negroes to attack Jews in order to gain sympathy. Massive terror attack was thwarted by Kash Patel. That was Jews. And you go, you guys it's become a pathology. You started with some general truths like a disproportionate number of the politically correct movement are secular Jews. Yeah, that's true. But you've drawn that out to everything that happens to Jews is Jews. And I've gone from being mildly annoyed by it to getting really angry. I mean, they become like vegans. It's all they talk about.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, it's like every ink blot, Jews. They just can't stop thinking about it. Christopher Hitchens, there's a great video. Maybe we can dig it up and put it in this clip. He says there's a lot of different ways you can hate people. You can hate black people because maybe you worried they're criminals. You can hate people from India because maybe you think their cooking smells or something. Like he listed the specific things that people don't like about other races, but then he said anti-Semitism is different because it's part of this whole cosmic theory that the Jews run everything. Everything is like, it's like, you don't think, oh, everything in my life that's wrong, it's because of the Indians. It's like he tried to distinguish anti-Semitism from other racism. I thought, yeah, I think anti-Semitism makes people go a little mental. And there's too many people who I admired on the right, some of whom I worked with, some of whom I really looked up to, who have just taken, like, it's a kind of pill where you take it and, like you just said, you can explain anything away. It's the universal excuse for why things are wrong in the world, and it's the universal excuse for why your life isn't going well. That is such a corrosive thing to believe in and so unconservative.
Because this is a very, very serious cultural danger, and it's only a fool who thinks that anti-Semitism is a threat to Jews. And anti-Semitism is a very, very toxic threat to everything we can decently call civilization. And it confers upon us when we find it, even a little bit, because it's quite hard to be, mildness is good, I like it, but it's generally quite hard to be a little bit anti-Semitic. And I should just end where you started about the psychosis. Of course, Steve Coakley was a psycho. He couldn't stay off the subject of the Jews. Most people who have this prejudice can't stay off it. That's the thing. If someone says they don't like West Indians because of their, I don't know what it might be, their music, or they don't like Indians because of the smell of their cooking, or they don't like Koreans for their kimchi, or whatever it might be, every minority and majority in the world has a version of this kind of prejudice. But as Freud pointed out, they'll all sink their differences when it comes to the Jews. And with the Jews, it's not their cooking or their sex lives or any of this. It's not just vulgar prejudice about skin color or smell or any of this. It's a theory. It's a paranoid theory that tries to explain quite a lot. It's fascinated with gold, with secret documents, with missing codicils in ancient treaties, with the idea of an invisible and secret government. It's a very, very, very dangerous pseudo-intellectual prejudice indeed. And I think Bellow was absolutely right to be seismic about it. And if the cost of that was sometimes exaggerating it, or maybe even conceivably once or twice seeing it when it wasn't there, I now think that's a very small price to pay compared to the risks of being insensitive to it and the dangers that it poses.
Well, with black people here in New York, because I go to a boxing gym, I go to the bar, I have my show with cops on it, and we're approaching 50% with anti-Semitism. And like half the cops are like, Gavin, why won't you name the Jew? They call me Goyvid. And then the other half of the cops are like, what happened to you guys? Like, what pill did you swallow? And then at the gym, the black dudes, I think that there's been some deep-seated anti-whiteness there. And the anti-Semitism has allowed them to indulge in their anti-white hate because they see Jews as like the most exceptional whites. So I get to contact, the eye of the storm. And it's this confluence of bubbling hatred and self-hatred, whites hating themselves, that has all exploded into this name the Jew. And here's a controversial view. I think it's good. You know why?
Why?
Because I'm hoping these secular Jews realize that it's not MAGA. It's that they've been totally focused on white supremacy. Even Australia today has a commercial out with a swastika saying, we need to stop all these Nazis, stop Islamophobia. I'm hoping that all of this anti-Semitism shows secular Jews, because Orthodox Jews were hip to this a long time ago, that you've been chasing the wrong tail. It's not white supremacy. It's Marxist, young, rich college students, including Jews. It's the refugees that you embraced and said, refugees welcome here. And it's the brothers. It's the radical blacks that you thought liked you. Yeah. Those three groups hate your guts. And MAGA, there's no red hats in these crowds. Like, remember you were at FIT and a bunch of rich white kids, probably plenty of Jews in there, were attacking FIT.
Fashion Institute of Technology in New York. I remember that. I was shocked when I went to, you and I went to the sit-in, the encampment at Fashion Institute of Technology and also at Columbia. I was startled by how many non-Muslim people were there. There were whites. Every trans activist on campus seemed to be there. I was startled by how many Asian women, like Chinese American women.
Well, it's fashion, and Asians tend to overachieve. So if this is the thing that everyone's doing, I'm going to assimilate and overachieve in it. And that's a huge part of it too, is it's fashion. I think hate is natural. We all have it in us. And society, I blame mostly Marxist teachers, have taught us that you can only hate one group, and that is whites. And Jews are the king of the whites. So everyone is funneling all their natural animosity, which is a normal thing to have in you. We're all tribal. And they've directed all of it in that one little opening in the pressure cooker that is white. And Jews and whites are both in that. And it's just blasting full on at them.